the first thing I want to talk about real quick, and I think this is a segue for what you guys do, is what is the difference in financial planning leading up to your retirement versus during the retirement itself?
Yeah, so to start, I work with Retirable. We're a fiduciary financial advisory service, and we really specialize in retirement planning. Sometimes we like to call it decumulation planning, which is ultimately what the difference is. And as fiduciaries, we only do what's in your best interest. We want to make sure that any recommendations that we make are what's going to be most beneficial for you. So by starting with a financial plan, we really can gear up what's going to happen, what we can predict is going to happen, and how we should invest accordingly. Now, you have like three main phases in your life. You have your accumulation phase. This is when we're stocking money away for retirement, we're saving up those things. And then we have this transitional period, and we'll see that between like 50, 55, upwards to 67 when you're about to retire. And this is where we're starting to shift gears here and start to plan. Your 401k might start to get a little bit more conservative. We might be looking at certain insurances to protect ourselves. And even like contributions that you make, you have that step up period where you can actually catch up and contribute a little bit more. But then you have this retirement phase, or what we call the distribution phase. And this is when we start to actually take money out of our investment vehicles and spend it. So we're spending down. Really what happens here is investing changes significantly. Whereas before we were putting things away, we want growth, we want growth, we want growth. And when you approach this decumulation side, it's really important to understand what your time horizons are, because that really facilitates how much risk I actually take with my money. And most people have three main buckets that fit that time horizon. We have the money that we're pulling in the next year. That's the income that I do not want to fluctuate. We have the money that we're going to be pulling in the next 10 years. That needs to be stable. I don't want to take too much risk here. And then we have to keep up with things like inflation. So we need growth for anything that we're not going to pull in those 10 years. And how do we actually build a plan to assess what those cash flows look like, do it tax efficiently, and then say, how do we actually invest from here out?
So it's a very different skill set from when you're young. We're both in our 30s and you're looking to accumulate as much wealth as you said and be a little more aggressive and a little more, tolerant of risk versus what you guys primarily do, which is you say, this is how much money you have. Let's make this last 20 or 30 years at a lifestyle you feel comfortable at, correct?
Yeah, it's not just making sure it's last. It's understanding what is safe to spend. What are the goals that we have so that we can kind of mitigate these kind of lumps in taxes that we can also have coming through. Let's say we want to take a $20,000 trip one year. What does that do to our tax bracket? And then achieving any other goals that we have, such as legacy as well. But at the core, we want to understand what is safe to spend and how do we invest appropriately to give you that money. And essentially, we're going to take your investments and we're going to create a paycheck for you out of them. So you can live that comfortably and confidently without a doubt. I mean, looking somebody who's 30 years old, I'm not taking distributions anytime soon. My time horizon is totally geared for growth right now. But somebody who's 60 years old and is about to retire in 5 years, what do we do with that money in 5 years? How are we rebalancing and reassessing what our investments are at that time?
That's awesome to hear. So what you guys do is you say, let's not make you eat rice and beans all day for the rest of your retired life. Let's have some fun. Let's make sure we build in the things that make life worth living into the plan. It's not just, only spend $1 a day or something and just hold as much money as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we have like three different personality types in retirement, and you have those who significantly overspend. They say, you know what, I've lived my whole life for this. I'm not going to have fun when I'm 85 and 90 years old anyway. Let's do it all now and let's really go for it. But where that can kind of like have its downside is what happens if we have a long-term care issue and things like that. We don't want to be a burden for our families. We have the people who like thread the needle, but it's actually really slim. And a lot of people actually underspend significantly in retirement. They play things way too conservatively. They're not invested for growth and they don't have these different buckets set out. So what they do is they limit themselves in their early years of retirement due to that fear. And we end up spending essentially our golden years really, really tight when we don't need to be. And that's where we can open up the doors. Let's take a look at everything the way that we want to play it. Let's figure out what our goals are and figure out what is safe to accomplish so that we can go into retirement not only like living the life we've worked so hard to achieve up to that point, but having all our goals and not having to have this kind of like ambiguous anxiety about it as well. What I would say is 72% of Americans don't have a financial plan. They might have an investment advisor, a 401k, a brokerage account somewhere, but nobody is sitting down and saying, let's put all of this together for you and see how it all works together, including your housing costs, your debts, any taxes that you owe, especially your healthcare costs. It's one of the major concerns inside of retirement, and that's why we recommend working with a very, very trusted broker. But like these things are essential spends, and then we have our lifestyle. It's how we want to live and what we want to do. How do we bring them all into one place, take a look at it holistically, and then start investing? And that's why that plan first is super, super important at this stage in your life. It's also the reason why we do that as a free consultation for our clients. That's the first thing that we do before we start talking about investments.
Thanks again for tuning in to Talking Retirement on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to keep up with the podcast, and check out all the other great educational content we have on the NJ Life and Health YouTube channel. If you'd like to listen to an audio version of the podcast, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much all other major podcasting platforms. For daily senior tips and to keep up with us at NJ Life and Health, follow us on all major social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at NJ Life and Health. And of course, if you'd like someone in your corner to help you with Medicare and life insurance, we would love to talk to you. Visit our website at www.njlifeandhealth.com or call our office in Toms River, New Jersey at 848-226-6897. We'd love to set you up with an appointment with one of our Medicare and life insurance brokers, and we are licensed in a lot of other states besides New Jersey. So no matter where you are, there's a chance we can help you out. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.